Hello and welcome to Let's take a look at the headlines. Federal government arraigns at Debutu 9 others for vote buying. Russian shelling kills 7 at Ukraine aid point. We'll bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. A very good afternoon to you and many thanks for joining us on the news at this hour. We begin the news this afternoon with a report that the federal government has arraigned the People's Democratic Party PDP candidate in the 2023 governorship election in Ogun State, Ladi Adebutu, and 9 others before an Ogun State High Court sitting in Abeokuta for vote by 10,000 naira each and inscribed with the same name for the purpose of corruptly influencing voters to vote for PDP candidates during the said elections. Reports say Adebutu, who was charged in absentia, has been on the run from law. The case, which was brought before Justice Abiodun Akinyemi sitting in Court 4, was adjourned till today, June 10, but after the sitting, the court has asked the federal government is set to harmonize all revenue collecting agencies in Nigeria. The special advisor to President Bola Tinubu on revenue, Zach Adedeji, made this known to newsmen. Adedeji said the government will double the country's total revenue, which is currently below 15 trillion naira, by deepening the nation's revenue collection system and not by adding extra taxes. Adedeji clarified that the Tinubu administration is not going to collapse revenue-generating bodies, but will use technology. Adedeji also stressed that Tinubu has already approved the harmonization of all the revenue-collecting agencies. And now to Nigeria's leader, President Bola Tinubu, who has returned to Abuja after a 2-day trip to Guinea-Bissau for the 63rd ordinary session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of the Economic Community of West African States ECOWAS in Bissau. At the summit, which is the president's who previously held the position in 2018, Tinubu told the leaders in the sub-region that under his leadership, the Commission will take democracy to a greater height, noting that democracy is very tough, with terrorism and an emerging pattern of military takeover that developments. The wife of President Bola Tinubu, Oluremi Tinubu, has debunked reports that she closed the Aso Rock Chapel. Recall that not support her husband. Reacting in a statement issued by her aide, Bukola Kukosi, she said that the chapel is open and holds weekly fellowship. She added that President Tinubu is yet to appoint a chaplain, but has lamented that most of the people who are supposed to operationalize the Nigerian Constitution are undermining the Constitutional Assembly, fix their own salaries in clear usurpation of the duty of the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission. The former president said this in Ado-Ekiti, the Ekiti State capital, Babalola, while urging political leaders to put the interests of citizens ahead in all decisions. Obasanjo pointed out that democracy does not. On security matters now, the Chief of Army rewarded the officers with medals and special commendation letters at this year's Army Day celebration in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. Among those recognized and honored was Brigadier General Evarist Koro. Was honored for being a proactive senior officer who conducted several operations to curb the occurrence. In another development now, the acting Comptroller General thieves, insisting that the nation cannot afford to let saboteurs take over its economy. Adeniyi, who had Nigeria's border stations despite the removal of subsidy on the commodity,
Those of us in the creative world knows that every idea, every innovation starts with an idea. I shall be inviting the brain behind the solid foundation of an enabling legal framework in tandem with the current realities of NCS operations. In office, he was committed to this journey. Join me to welcome Honorable Leki Abejide for his keynote address. Please, he leads.
I took it upon myself to surmount the obstacles of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 SEMA repealed. Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, Honorable Idris Wasi, the custom committee members, and indeed former management we are all celebrating today did not come that easy, as the bill was declined assent 3 times. Ministry of Justice, talking with the Ministry of Finance and the Nigeria Customs Service, previous administration did. But all glory to God, it is a reality today.
In education now, the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TET Fund, has engaged the National Association. It would improve students' accommodation in institutions through public-private partnership. The Executive Secretary, TET Fund, present dialogue with NANS to meet students' needs, noting that they were at the center of any policy. Umoino yesterday inspected the International Markets Project at Iket local government area, and his determined efforts to reach in an interview with Government House reporters shortly after inspecting the markets. Governor executed by his predecessors and ensuring its completion, emphasized that government is a continuum. He acknowledged that the COVID-19 pandemic halted the project in its advanced stage of execution, stressing that it must present to the beauty of the metropolis and pedestrians. Earlier, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Trade and Investment, Oliver Udokwu, stalls and a large parking space to accommodate the customers and traders coming for transaction in the markets. He hinted that the government would sublet those stores for those engaging in various businesses 5 years. Government House correspondent Janua reports that the governor was accompanied by top government functionaries, including the of Trade and Investment, Oliver Udokwu, amongst others. Mani has called for the return of Mali to the G5 Sahel organization. Ghazouani made the appeal in Mauritanian capital Nouakchott at the opening of the 4th session of the General Assembly of the Sahel Alliance. Recalls that Mali left the regional military alliance fighting jihad. And still in Africa now, the president of the Central African Republic, CAR, Faustin Tadera, has delivered the new constitution draft to the campaign organizers ahead of the referendum. The constitution is not the first that has not been imposed on the country. According to reports, the new constitution, if approved, removes the limit of 2 terms to the president, therefore allowing the president. On the foreign scene now, Ukraine has killed 7 people. Reports say Kyiv has a pre-war population of 14,000 people and is in the frontline southeastern region of Zaporizhia, which Russian leader Vladimir Putin claimed to have annexed last year despite having full military control over it. Meanwhile, Kyiv regional governor Yuri Malashyn foreign scene now, the military alliance's chief Jens Stoltenberg says Turkey's President Tayyip Erdogan has agreed to support Sweden's bid to join NATO. Stoltenberg said the earlier stalled the ratification process, accusing Sweden of hosting Kurdish militants. Stoltenberg, speaking in Vilnius after holding talks between Erdogan and Kristersson, could not be given for when Sweden could join the military alliance, as this relied on the Turkish parliament. And still to come in the news tour, just stay with us. Many thanks for still being there. Now to the rest. 33% of the total gas revenue in Africa. The federal government disclosed this through the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, noting that the gas reserves in Nigeria could last for about 90 years. Association for Energy Economics 16th Annual International Conference in Abuja said it is important to note that oil and gas would continue to guarantee energy security for Nigeria's massive population, estimated to be about 200 million. Benga added that over the last 2 centuries, as hydropower, wind, solar, blue hydrogen, and other renewable sources of energy. And still in business, Naira has appreciated to 744 Naira per dollar from Friday's 768 Naira per dollar rate. Market forces to determine exchange rate for the Naira. The President Association of Bureau de Change Operators of Nigeria, APCON, market rates. He said the financial sector regulator should find ways efforts to avoid contracting diphtheria, as everyone is at risk of being infected with the disease. The Health Ministry also warned the public to be cautious, especially children under 5 years and adults above, for proper diagnosis and treatment. The ministry said the disease, which is a life-threatening infection caused by bacteria, is easily transmitted from person to person through coughing, sneezing, and contact with open sore and blister wounds on the skin. It identified the prevention measures to include vaccination, promotion of herd immunity, and pride health professionals. NUAHP has called on the federal government to implement the high-level body technical committee's report on the adjustment of the consolidated health salary structure to avert a resumption of the recently suspended industrial action of the union's 8th quadrennial national delegates country. Martin Igbenubi stated that to reduce the brain drain in the health sector, the government must provide adequate funding for the sector, improve the working condition and welfare of healthcare workers. Now to sports, where Arsenal's manager Mikel Arteta has called up England-born Nigerian, the 16-year-old midfielder Ethan Nwani, a teenage academy prospect picked by Arteta. Recall that Arsenal are currently out in Germany gearing up. Louise Kelly and Ruel Walter could feature. Meanwhile, Nwaneri is known to fans after he became the youngest player in Premier League history last term. And still in sports now, the European Court of Human Rights, ECHR, has ruled in favor of double 800-meter Olympics. The 32-year-old South African was born with differences of sexual development, DSD, and is not allowed to compete in events between 400 meters and a mile without taking testosterone reducing drugs. Reports say that Semenya has been a long-running dispute with Covering Body World Athletics since regulations requiring her to take hormones to treatments to decrease her natural testosterone levels were introduced. Was against the government of Switzerland for not protecting her rights and dates back to a Swiss Supreme Court ruling 3 years ago. The victory for the 32-year-old is largely symbolic, as it does not call into question the ruling by World Athletics and does not pave the way for Semenya to return to competition in the 800 meters. Kanayo has shared some words of wisdom on the trending Brazilian boot lift BBL among women. The filmmaker expressed his anger and disapproval of the Brazilian boot lift in an Instagram post, calling it unprofitable and likening it to secondary school relationships. The actor asked why people will subject themselves to so much pain and told the story about a young woman whose boyfriend abandoned her after she caught an infection from the procedure. Meanwhile, Kanayo discouraged women from getting the procedure done. And still in entertainment now, an American actress and producer Andrea Evans, whose acting credits include One Life to Live, The Young and the Restless, The Bold and the Beautiful, and passions has passed on following a battle with cancer. Her manager says he described Andre as a tremendous talent and an absolute joy to work with. Meanwhile, Ivan's publicist Clint Morris added in a separate statement that Andre was a wonderful person and another angel needed to be recruited in heaven. This time, do well to follow us on all our social media handles and ensure to subscribe to your YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website at SpectrumTv.ng.